Weird science
is the revolution.
The Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt #1, like you said, it kind of continues from the Amazing Spider-Man #49 tie-in issue, but that has to go off to its big 50th issue and Spider-Goblin nonsense. But this is written by Justina Ireland with pencils by Marcelo Ferreira, inks by Roberto Poggi, and colors by Rachel Rosenberg, VC's Corey Petit. On letters in Justine Ireland, she's more of a novelist, but she has done some things, one of which is the Son of Staros book that I mentioned already that me and you didn't really like. So going into this, there's going to be some hurdles for some people. You end up, it's not as good as what we just read. This is the idea of everybody who hates Zeb Wells, including two people talking right here. And I'm not going to say we just don't like most of his issues.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff.
There's worse. And you kind of see here, it doesn't have any sort of oomph to it. It just seems to be going through the paces because you need to have a Spider-Man book in the event. But unfortunately, the regular Spider-Man book is now hitting 50 and you got to do all that. So they end up having this. By the end, it just didn't have any part where I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Oh my God, that's cool. It just kept going. It kept going and going. In fact, it got to a point where it says the end to be continued. And I'm like, thank God. I didn't see that it kept going. I had to read it before. I get on with you and we're talking about it. You're like, yeah, and then that backup. And it's not even a backup. It's a continuation. But I'm like, huh? And then I read it. I'm like, okay. And I said to you, like, but it is important to the deal. So really, there probably will be a bunch of people who do read it and not realize because you have the end. And then you have another page. You know, I guess it's easier in print, but if you're reading it page to page digitally, this gets us a lot of times.
The editor comes on and talks. I mean, that's
what I'm saying. Once you see that, I mean, I'm out. I don't do that now. It happens on our DC podcast with Eric a lot, and I usually make fun of him. I got it here. It happened to me. And so you end up having Marcelo Ferreira. See, that's the thing. I've heard people say it different now. And it's making me run scared there, too, because it has that E and an I, and they said Ferreira. So you end up where the art's okay, but it's kind of just, it's kind of there. It's Marvel style. It's nothing that you're going to, again, there's no pages in this that I'm going to say, oh my God, you got to see that page, but you see what's going on. It does its job, right? You have Misty Knight. She's got her metal arm. All right. I hate when we talked about it recently. What was it we were doing? And they had her in like a hoodie, and you couldn't see the arm. You never cover the arm.
You got to see the arm.
Yeah, I like Misty. Pretty sexy.
Oh, she's cool.
So, so you end up in that. Yeah, the outfit's really good. But again, it's kind of just there. The art is good, not great, but at least it tells the story.
Yeah, well, like even we saw John Romita Jr.'s Lizard, and we were like, oh, that's pretty cool last issue, and then this just looks to me like Killer Croc. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, Lizard here. Or as Misty likes to say, Lizzie, which I'll bring up now. The big play here is that Misty goes to get Spider-Man, tells Lizard to go ahead of him, or her, say, go get Spider-Man, not realizing that means, like, he might eat him, but he doesn't. And then when Misty shows up, says, hey, I need your help because we have to go get Dr. Mike and Colleen Wig. And when they say that, Dr. Mike. And what that is then, it is Morbius. Yeah, it's Dr. Michael Morbius. Don't call him Dr. Mike. That sounds so ridiculous. And in that, like, you have Spider-Man. He won't say it. Like, I was waiting for the end. Like, he's going to say it. He ain't going to say it. And he's like,
no way.
Morbius. Just call him. Is it that hard? When you have these things going, if it's something that people can't pronounce or something that, I don't know. Why?
Maybe they're trying to downplay it because of that terrible movie that came out.
I was going to say the only reason, because most of the time you want the real name because, he maybe want to distance himself. It'd be funny if at the end that guy, and it is JT, is it? Maybe that's Jared Toledo.
It's Jared Toledo.
It'd be funny if the guy at the end was Jared Leto. But no, they're there and it's just all thrown at you. Like I said, the pacing is weird. The change from scene to scene is odd. Like, it just feels like they're at a place, they finish it, and boom, there's no real progression in my mind of the whole story, so it kind of makes it feel like it just keeps going. And
then you got the most generic of bad guys ever are vampires a lot of times, so it's just like you're just fighting nameless, faceless vampires the whole time. with no reason
Quite
to.
frankly, here's the deal. I'm going to lay down the whole thing of this issue. By the end, and remember, everybody listening, think of what this means to you as a Marvel reader, right? You have this big thing. It's Spider-Man. This should be huge, right? So you're there, and by the end, what they're trying to do is save Colleen and Morbius from a offshoot of the Beyond Corporation of a guy that isn't even Maxine Danger. I mean, if you're going to do anything, they do show her here,
They do mention her, yeah.
which I always like to
and
call her.
Spider-Man acts like he doesn't even know who she is.
Yeah, and I like calling her Maxine Donger. That's just
Donger,
me
yeah.
from the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But you end up where all of this is, it's a throwback to the Beyond Corporation that I don't
Nobody
know
asked for.
anybody asked for or is pining for anymore. I mean, really, the worst that could be, besides Paul, would be that all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're going to have to dip back into the dark web. Like, you don't need that either. Like, that's nonsense. You know what I mean?
Bad.
Like, all of a sudden they run and they're like, the only thing that could save us is sentient mailboxes.
But wasn't
like,
Dark Web just an offshoot of Beyond?
Yeah,
too?
that's and every time it comes up, and here's my big problem with the dark web, and this has nothing to do with this issue, is that Ben Reilly has been so angry at Peter. I'm going to get Peter. I need to get my members. We see every time that Ben's not around that the Beyond Corporation is just hanging. Those are the people you need to go after. He doesn't. But yeah, nobody wants the Beyond Corporation anymore. And what it ends up to me is it's thrown in there if you need a generic thing that does tie into the run, but it's not. You're not going to be able to screw it up because what can you do with it? And so,
exactly.
again, when you have to kind of remind yourself too at the end of this, if you are really looking at this hard and heavy, it's more of a, Colleen, Wing, Morbius, and Misty Knight. But like Spider-Man isn't even the main
He's
guy.
kind of in the background doing
They went
stuff.
to get him. And again, I guess it's just like gang war. Because that's all he did there. But if you're going to do this, like, kind of come up with a better thing. I thought that Lizard and Spider-Man were going to go off and work in the lab and do things. It seems that Morbius already came up with a cure. He was working on a cure, I guess, the instant that son got blocked out. That guy was down in the lab, his secret lab. He gets taken. Colleen and Misty are involved. They get the Lizard. Like, all this just gets thrown together to just have them walk around the city to try to find them, even at a point where they go to a place at the first part where, oh my God, we got to set this up. We got this big tower. We're going to do this. We have a tracker on Dr. Mike. And they're not there. They go there and they're not there. So then they have to figure out, okay, well, what do we do next? I mean, that's a big part of the issue, is getting somewhere where nothing's really there. But they end up then in the lab and the Beyond facility. And that's where Spider-Man's like, oh, this is a Beyond facility? Oh, man. And then Misty says, oh, yeah, Auntie Monica. I mean, because she can't get out of her way of annoying me, says, must have missed a couple in her cleanup, as if anybody needed that editor's note. Like, I'm sitting there, I don't really think this really tracks on my end.
I don't remember that.
It was just at the very end. Those Bay issues, I remember me and Jason reviewing those and just like,
I'm sure I read them. They had no impact on me at all.
Again, they wouldn't, and we're done with that, or are we? Because we keep going back. But again, Spider-Man. Somehow in the offices they said we need a Spider-Man tie-in. Oh, you know what? We should get this Bay stuff, Salt Bay. I'd rather have, and I don't like that guy either. So they end up where they're going, and they end up in this facility, this Beyond facility that's underneath a church. So they think they're safe. Well, because Beyond, they're so sus. It's a fake church, so the vampires can walk in. Spider-Man is all upset about that. Then they fight what is Spider Vampire Punk guy. You see that guy?
Yeah, with the spikes on his head?
Yeah, guess. Okay.
Are those bones, or is that hair? What is that?
I guess it's bone. I mean, it doesn't look like hair. It's like weird skin.
He's one of those guys that got an implant before he turned into a vampire?
Like, he's so pissed. He got that implant a day before he became a vampire. But then now he's happy because he's like, I'm pretty cool looking vampire.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's nothing. I bet you we'd ask them, like, what's up with that guy? And they're like, really? You're asking us about that? So, Spider-Man gets the wonkum. No part in this is Spider-Man saying, oh, man, these are real people with real feelings.
Which
like I said at the end of the last issue, and that was his big thing. He doesn't care anymore.
Misty's like shooting people and shooting the vampires.
She's rootin' tootin'. I think that Lizard maybe ate like 7 of them. Spider-Man's doing Jean-Claude Van Damme moves on them. Not one care in the world because nothing is ever coordinated. I guess you can say that it would be tough because this would have been written, around the same time as the other one. But kind of get something in here. And yes, so they're fighting. But again, they're fighting in a fake church. And nothing of the set piece is being used for anything. In fact, a lot of it is just pretty generic and empty. You just have some random fighting, and you end up where Misty eventually comes up and says, we have a backdoor exit. Done. I mean, this is what this whole issue is that you have some things going on until they just let's go. We're out of here. At one point, Misty even says, hey, give me a little time. And so even the Spider-Man dialogue in this, it just didn't feel like Spider-Man to me. And like you said, Lizard's odd. But then they go off to a real church to talk to this priest. And at the meantime, Spider-Man, he's like, where did Lizard go? Oh, he's outside standing guard. They just show him there. And just to tell you, everybody's outside the church with the
super soakers.
Crazy super soakers with the crazy
holy water
in it. That's it.
They're just posted up outside. Like, I guess that's the ultimate weapon.
I guess. I don't know, maybe the sun.
Yeah, well, at the beginning, she goes, I found the cure. And Spider-Man's like, what do you mean, the sun? She's like, oh, no, not the sun. The sun is the cure, though.
Yeah, that is. Or maybe they could go, get a hold of that supernova. She could come. I wonder if that would affect.
Supernova would work out perfectly.
Supernova comes up. She's like the biggest hero ever.
Dr. Ock just makes her like be the sun. Just like forces her up there.
That's the thing. Supernova's not going to be allowed to do it on her own and be a hero. It's Doc Ock that's going to force her. So you're going to get some more weapons from the Padre here, the priest. In the meantime, even where Spider-Man pulls out, a thing of that
his
danger
web shooters
and the web shooters. It's just whatever. It just is nothing. There's Maxine Danger. It's like, and through the whole thing, Spider-Man keeps saying, I don't quite trust Misty. I think Misty's not telling me anything. I think, but what? I really don't get like the whole thing. There's not enough happening for it to not be telling them something. It just feels weird, but it's all the setup to then where they're trying to get to, Colleen and Morbius, and then they get attacked by more vampires. I mean, this is all it is. The vampires attack. Oh no, we're going to have to fight these off. And then it says to be continued. And then you have an editor's page. I didn't know it continued. And it does with Colleen and Morbius. This is where we just find out that Morbius, the Beyond Corporation is involved. And Colleen gets bit because they're captured. They were kidnapped.
They're in a Beyond food truck.
Yeah, they're in a Beyond food truck. They're being taken to this Beyond headquarters. There's a lot of yipping and yappins, and Morbius and Colleen open up a door, and there's a bunch of stupid vampires in the lobby, and they go, oh man, a corporation run by vampires. I just think it looks like a bunch of lazy layabouts. They're just standing there, but they seem to know. And in this, here's the problem, right? You end up meeting this guy, TJ. It is TJ, right?
Yeah,
TJ. He says, I'm TJ, a forgettable man for an insignificant deal, but I've started my new Hemoglobin Incorporated, right? Oh my God. But when you're setting this up, isn't this just like the structure kind of, but that's the big thing. So why are you doing this? There's no reason. It's just, it's not. This is the Spider-Man book. This should be
These
bigger.
vampires, are they getting like paychecks and they go to this office?
The guy's like, the one guy's in the back where they say, take her to the pens. The guy said, we getting double time?
Yeah, like they're actually like dressed up with belts on and stuff.
Oh yeah, some of them have business suits. One guy has a hoodie.
And how come some of them have hair and some don't?
I don't know. The one guy I see there, he didn't get the memo. It's Casual Friday. Like, yeah, what are they doing? Like, are they? Is there a HR vampire?
Is there a break room?
There. They're like, oh, the guy touched me. He made me feel weird. We got to do something about it. Yeah. Is there a break room?
Are they able to go out back and play football on the break?
Yeah, probably not. We weren't allowed. We got in trouble. Did they get like, the guy's like, well, actually, we've been working 4 hours. They get a 15-minute break. And then he's like, damn, that vampire union. What is going They walk into a room and they all just look. It's like the stormtroopers, the Death Star. They all look over. Some guys are, it's weird.
Yeah.
Actually, it actually looks like they're waiting there for like a open casting call for some generic vampire movie because they're all generic vampires. They're just there, or were they beyond corporation employees and they just don't know to do something else?
And at night, do they go home to like their house and their apartment and make a commute in and out of work?
Usually it'd be a day they'd go home. They work the graveyard shift. Now they're pissed because there's no light. They can't tell. There's no clocks. They have no.
It's like
clue.
Vegas.
Yeah, look at these jerks. Yeah, really. I want to know, like the freaking vampire wife's at home bitching and moaning. You work too much, and now these two over here, they're having an affair.
Yeah, there's inter-office, inappropriate romances.
You
Yeah.
shouldn't do that. That is, again, that's when the HR gets involved now because you're not allowed to do that.
Well, he was their boss, so that's clearly a conflict.
Well, it is, yes. And also, in a weird way, her boss, but also the HR, then now it's real trouble. This lady there. There's like maybe two ladies here. The one lady with this purple shirt. So they walk into this deal. They're in this is their building. They walk in and they have the nerve to start fighting these hardworking business people.
Yeah.
Because they just attack. And but again, very generic. There's a everything is like, there's no backgrounds at points. I think at this point, Marcelo also wasn't told it was going to continue and he had to do it quick because it does take a little dip.
I'm thinking it's a different artist because if wasn't credited on the credit page, but in the first page it says somebody named Campagna.
Okay, well,
so I think that might be that person's art.
It kind of takes.
It's definitely different.
Yeah. So after all this joking and nonsense, you end up where Colleen and Morbius are there. They fight off most of the vampires. At least the vampires pull away. So they're there. And I said to you, because Colleen's going to get bitten, I said to you before we start, I'm like, Colleen would know to go back to back but she is.
Back to back or back against the wall.
Yeah, you have to have something where you can't be snuck up from, especially in this situation. They are. They're in the middle of a room surrounded by vampires. They have gone back to back, Morbius and Colleen. Somehow this TJ sneaks up and bites Colleen behind, and the whole scene shifts for where Colleen is to Morbius. Morbius is now like 10 feet away. What happened? And she gets bitten.
I didn't even realize that was TJ that did that. It was, though.
That's the thing. I think that what the play here is I think it messed up. Just the way, I think you're supposed to think it was Morbius. I think that we're supposed to be like this weird dupe of, what, Morbius, what are you doing? Just because you're with the businessman, vampire. Maybe he wants to get a job. This is the trial run. He's not in the union yet. But I think that was the play, but then it wasn't. Well,
you see this guy TJ with blood dripping out of his mouth.
That's the only problem.
Otherwise, you think it's Morbius.
Otherwise, you would think it's Morbius, but he's got blood dripping down, but he might have just had his break. But yeah, and all these said, and then he's like, take her to the pen. So
his lunch break.
So now, with the vampire rules, we got to kill poor TJ. I don't know how we'll do it. I like that TJ thinks ahead. He's like, listen, the one thing that happens with these we get blood all over our freaking clothes, and it's tough to get out. So I'm wearing all red.
At least going full red.
Actually, that's why he's running the place. That's it. It's because when he goes in, it doesn't look like he's got blood all over him because he's wearing red. These other guys with their hoodies and shit. And
has anyone ever worn a full red outfit like that?
No, it looks kind of cool. I look where the guys are when they say yes, master. I swear the one is John Constantine. Looks just like him. But
I don't know. I think those like Kings of Comedy guys or whatever. Those guys used to wear full red outfits. I don't remember, but
yeah, they did. Yeah, I can picture that too. I like those guys. So you end up where they're there, and these vampires are taking Colleen. I love the idea. Morbius really has no concern at all for Colleen. Not at all. Bit. I mean,
it's almost like he's working with these guys. I don't know.
He did end up getting disturbed by them coming to his lab and things like that, but still, they kind of were teamed up, and you kind of would maybe care, but he doesn't even bat an eye. And this guy says, even the dialogue is just so boring. Indeed, I apologize, as I did not want our meeting to be so fraught, but please tell me, you're at least a little impressed. I'm like, what? And then he's like, impressed? I don't know who the hell you are, dude. You're like Johnny Red. And then he's like, you wouldn't know me. I'm TJ. It's an unforgettable name for an insignificant man, a lackey of the Beyond Corporation. I'm now Theocritus, and I want Morbius to say, whoa. Did you give yourself that name? Because you can't give yourself a name.
It's against the rules,
it's like giving yourself a nickname. You know, I want to be Long Dong Silver. It's not sticking. I might want it, but I don't think people are using it.
What was that nickname that George wanted to be in Seinfeld?
Yeah, I forget, but that's the thing. You can't, because you get a nickname because of like something quirky or whatnot. Yeah. You can't just make up a name. I'm going to be Stud Muffin. So this guy's like, I'm now Theocritus. I am telling you, what I need is almost like a Stripes, where it's like he goes to this and it's like, listen, I'm now Theocritus. Okay, pipe down, TJ. Like, just keep using TJ to annoy him. But he says, and I have how do you start up a corporation when you have a zombie or I almost said Dracula's apocalypse. You have a vampire apocalypse. The things are going, and somehow this guy has decided he's making a business, which in the thing he's saying, I think he's just going to collect blood.
Yeah, hemoglobin.
And sell it, right? He's just going to sell it to other vampires. I don't know. I think, I guess you got to.
It's always a thing when vampires take over and they actually get control. They have to kind of produce.
Well, you need a farm and stuff like that.
Farm.
Like what he's doing.
So you got to keep some livestock.
He's the only one of these jerks who's watched a vampire movie. But even then, like, how is he starting this up? Like, we need a side book.
Yeah, I get lost in the motivation. What's the intention? What's his reason?
I want to see him when he was there. Like, and this has just happened. Like, where did he got a loan? He's there at the vampire bank.
But does he want to buy a yacht and a bigger house?
The vampire bank is a blood bank.
Blood bank.
You end up, but yeah. So
to go on a nice vacation. What's his motivation?
How does he get all these? Like, is he paying them? Did he have like an open ad for like, hey, everybody, we're starting this business?
Or does he just control them because they call him master? So
they said that. I just think maybe they say that because of that suit. He looks. I think what it is they were wandering around. He shows up. He looks fancy, and he just told him, "I'm the boss." And they're like, "Okay."
You see that head of hair he has too? It's nice.
Yeah. Look at. I keep looking at that Nosferatu looking. Two jerks. These guys look like twins. The guy that was in the riot gear and the guy in the hoodie. Those guys are the worst. They are not. They can't be the face of the corporation. But of course, they all look like jerks. And Theocritus. And he looks all fancy. And I love it. It's like, you fell in love with TJ in Hallows Eve, many. No, I didn't. So I don't know who that is. That was not a editor's note for me. And somehow I hate him more now because it just doesn't. It's such, and we were joking around with the idea, but if you do think of this, it's ridiculous. And it's a Spider-Man book. And he's just kind of walking. It's gang war again, where Spider-Man's doing nothing but react to what other people are doing or sending him to do. Bullcrap is what I say, but what would you give this?
5.5.
I'm giving it a 5. It's just generic. Now we're laughing about the stupid stuff, but there's nothing in this that I think people are going to get mad about. There's nothing that you're going to be like, oh my God, it's so bad, because we've had issues, even Zeb Wells issues.
Yeah,
or, stuff like, say Mark Russell, right? I'll just throw his name out there. Cody Ziegler. But you end up like, this doesn't get me mad except for the fact that it's a Spider-Man book in an event and it's nothing. That's why, again, it's because of what's happening in the ASM, but I think it's also just like, well, we'll push this aside. I'm surprised that I guess you have to have a Spider-Man tie-in like this, though.
Well, Morbius, you got to get him in. I mean, he's one of the original vampires.
Yeah, and even then, he's coming up with a cure. And the thing is, too, where he does say at the end, we didn't even say it, TJ, he says he wants Morbius because everybody seems to know that Morbius has this cure anyway, but says, I want to finish that cure with you. Does he want to finish it so he can destroy it? Or does he want to not be a vampire? I don't know. Or is that what he's doing? Is that what he's going to market? Or he figures that some people would not want to be vampires. Maybe this guy will end up being the hero. He'll save us all. In the meantime, Colleen could be dead. She could be a vampire. I don't know, because she just gets carried away. Look at that one guy, too. I think HR should be nice thing, the way he's grabbing her there.
Yeah, he's copping a feel.
Yeah, I'm telling you. It's like, again, it looks like she is now at Woodstock 99.
It's like the mosh pit.
She passed out and now bad shit. Get Carson Daly. Call him up. They were looking for his ass. I don't even care about cursing anymore. There we are. But we're done with our books. We were, just to let everybody know, we were going to do the Venom book, but we ran out of time. I didn't have enough time to read it. But if anybody has read it, let us know. how it is you read it.
Yeah, I liked it enough. Yeah, it would have been taken a long time to explain it.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
So there we go. We had a lot of fun with this one, though. I don't even know why.
This was harmless. I mean, it just, but
that's what it is. But that's
not offensive.
That's
just
the one thing that gets me mad, though, as a little thing. It's harmless, but that shouldn't be what the Spider-Man.
No, I don't think it should be either.
You know what I mean? Like if you end up having, I don't know, what was that one? Jack the Ripper. That one that's coming out next week, I believe. I mean, seriously, that can be harmless. Probably is going to be
Union Jack the Ripper.
Union Jack the Ripper. Whatever. We have to do that one. It sounds so ridiculous. But that's.
I mean, this should have been, what are they called? The Daughters of the Dragon?
That's what I'm saying. That's what it
Blood
should be.
Hunt.
That's all
Daughters
it is.
of the Dragon.
And, even in that Bay stuff, you'd have those Bay issues, so you'd have this stuff in it, in that side bit. And I don't mind. I like Colleen and I like Misty, but
just throw Spider-Man on the cover. He's just a guest.
But that's what I'm saying. But then you have to have somebody else do you have to have a Spider-Man, tie-in. But this felt weird. This felt like an aside. Oh, by the way, throw Spider-Man into your story to do it, so it makes it worse.
Weird science
is the revolution.